Hey everyone, welcome to the comment section. I'm your host, Shivani Prasad, and I'm so excited to have you here today for this episode with Ashni Mehta. Ashni was actually our first guest ever on the show, so we're so thrilled to have her back. On the comment section, we debunk, explain, review, and answer questions about comments left by people on your favorite social channels. Are these comments true? Should they have an influence on what you believe? Well, we talk to the experts to get you the answers that you need. So thank you so much today. Thank you so much for joining us today on the comment section.
Thank you for having me.
So to discuss these comments today with me, I have Ashni Mehta. She is the Senior Digital Strategist at Stand Up America, where she leads the organization's social media strategy and manages a grassroots community of over 1.2 million progressives over Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Ashni, I'm just going to click you into the program. Thanks so much for joining me today.
Hi, thanks so much for having me. I'm so excited to be back.
So today we are talking about Donald Trump's impeachment. We're going to get right on it. Ashni has been living and breathing everything this impeachment for her job. So she's the perfect person to have on here to talk about it. So we found these two comments. I'm just going to actually pop them right up on the screen so we can read them first. So this first one says, there's literally no point. There's 11 days left. And also, I doubt an impeachment would pass the Senate exactly like last time. And the next comment we're discussing says, Republican senators who say that convicting Trump will not unify the country are missing the point. A conviction is about ensuring the principles of our democracy are upheld and prohibiting him from running for office again, among other privileges that will be removed. It's justice. So, Ashni, for anyone that isn't updated on this process, can you tell us what's the latest with impeachment?
Yeah, of course. So the House just voted to impeach Trump, and actually 10 Republicans also voted to impeach and join the impeachment effort. And that makes this the most bipartisan impeachment in our history. And also, of course, I think most people know this means that Trump is the only president in United States history to have been impeached twice. Mm-hmm. And there's only been four impeachments in the history of the United States, and half of them are now against Donald Trump. So now the Senate is unfortunately adjourned until the 19th, and Mitch McConnell is refusing to reconvene the Senate early to have a trial. Behind the scenes, what's going on is that Senate leadership is trying to figure out how a trial would actually work, because the Senate still needs to confirm Joe Biden's cabinet and make sure they can legislate, or they would be holding up his agenda. And right now, there's just so much work to do with the pandemic and so many struggling Americans. So they're trying to figure out how they can kind of balance the two.
So it's not even figured out yet.
Yeah, so they're still trying to figure it out. Like right now, it's looking like they'll be splitting their days for the next few weeks to confirm the cabinet and also have the trial, or they could possibly Nancy Pelosi could hold the articles of impeachment in the House until the 25th, until after the cabinet is confirmed. So we're going to find out early next week exactly how this trial could go down. And this is really, just to reiterate, unprecedented. Being impeached is so rare. And to have to impeach someone as they're leaving office is something that we've never seen. So a lot of this is just going to be like waiting and seeing how things unfold.
Okay. And so I'm going to just pop this first comment back up on the screen. Just for everyone to have a second to read it. And then I'm just going to actually pop it up right underneath us. So like this first commenter, a lot of people believe that this impeachment won't do much. A lot of people are using this excuse, like this commenter is, that there's only 11 days left or whatever. They think that it's pointless at this point with this week left or whatever amount of time is left, and that it'll only bring further division because Democrats are doing this spitefully. So I would love to know, as somebody who's been following this probably closer than most people, what are your thoughts on that?
Honestly, I think it has very little to do with spite. I've heard so many Republican members of Congress on the House floor say that this is just another attempt by the Democrats to impeach Donald Trump. And the reality is, I think the left would just as likely like to put Trump behind them as the right, probably more so. Mm-hmm. There's just so much work to be done, and trying to convict Trump and holding a trial is a distraction from the work that we want to do. And no one wanted Joe Biden's first days in office to be overshadowed by more Trump chaos, right? Like, we could all use a break. So I think that the argument that this is out of spite is just not, it's just misguided. But this is about consequences. If we allow this violence to go unpunished, just as we allowed the white supremacist rally in Charlottesville to go unpunished, we'll once again be vulnerable to Trump encouraging more violence in the future from his followers. History has been pretty clear. Appeasement just doesn't work. So we have to respond in the most firm way possible, and impeachment is it.
So then we also have people on the other side that is kind of more, that are more in line with your position. I'm going to pop that comment up, give everyone just a second to reread it. We, you know, it's not really about unifying the country is what they're saying, because like a lot of people have said, like Saad said last week, I had him on last week, and he was like, you know, there is no unifying. There is no, you know, sort of, oh, sorry, that last one is still up there. You know, there isn't really any negotiating with white nationalists. So it's not necessarily about that. So I know we've seen some different repercussions getting thrown around. This comment mentions some. I want to know from you, are they true? Like, does it prevent him from running again? I've also heard that it removes his $1 million vacation allowance per year. So many things like that, that those of us who like aren't necessarily, you know, right in there, knowing all of this information, like really taking it all in, knowing all these different processes and stuff. We just kind of hear these things getting thrown around, and a lot of people are, and we don't know whether it's true or not. So I would like you to tell us exactly what happens, actually what happens procedure-wise, if he were to get fully impeached.
Yeah. So the truth is, it kind of depends a lot. There's just a lot of processes out there to kind of react to this. And what Congress is figuring out right now is like whether impeachment is the best way. Impeachment is is considered to be the most severe punishment that Congress has, and the strongest form of oversight, right? But then there's also invoking the 25th, which the cabinet can do, which Mike Pence failed to do. There's also the 14th Amendment. So there's a lot of different things, and we just don't know right now what's going to happen. So first, the Senate's going to have a trial. I think that's, you know, a given. And two-thirds of the Senate will need to vote to convict Trump. And after the conviction vote, they hold a second vote, which would be the vote to disqualify him from ever running for office again. You can also disqualify him from running from office under the 14th Amendment. So there's two ways to disqualify him from running from office. And he does lose his pension, but I don't think it is true that he ever really had a $1 million travel budget. I think that's a misconception, and it's just something that's been floating around.
Right.
Again, the main point here is really making sure that the message is clear, that there is a bipartisan message to Trump's followers, to the American people and the rest of the world, that what happened on January 6th will never be tolerated again in this country. Our democracy hinges on the peaceful transition of power, and failing to convict and disqualify Trump would be a rejection of the oath of every member of Congress swore to uphold. It's just ridiculous that it can get that bad, and we're still contemplating whether we should impeach him or convict him or disqualify him.
Right. And I think it's so telling that there were, 10 Republican Congress people that did vote to impeach, Liz Cheney being one of them. I mean, she's the third Republican in line. She's the third most powerful Republican. I mean, that's saying so much. I don't want to give anybody a pat on the back for all of a sudden having morals. However, I know that must have been a massive decision given the amount of pushback that she's getting, and she's getting like so much blowback now. We're seeing that, and she's standing really strong in her stance. So I think that that's really telling that there are a lot of people on the other side that think that this was not okay. And I think I also saw two Fox News hosts arguing about it. And one of them actually said, if it was a Democrat that had done this, do you think we'd be fighting for impeachment? Of course we would. Like, we would say this is not right, you know? So there's just so many different ways that you could look at it.
Yeah, and I think something that's also really telling to your point is that every Republican member of Congress that got up on the floor and spoke during the impeachment part of it in the House, no one was really defending Donald Trump, right? Like, no one was saying that he didn't do anything. No one was saying that, like, he shouldn't be held accountable. Everyone knew that he was in the wrong. Everyone can admit that he is the one that encouraged this, that really instigated these riots. And it seems that even the people there are saying that he instigated those riots. There's no confusion about who did it and how bad it is. It's now just really a reaction of how it's a matter of how far we're willing to go to punish this and make sure it doesn't happen again. And I think as a voter, I want to do everything in my power to make sure that we're not in this position again.
Mm-hmm. And what about if he doesn't get impeached by the Senate? What does that mean moving forward? Will it make a difference since there's a new president coming in anyways? Will we continue to see that the Republican Party doesn't want to hold this president accountable? I mean, it's looking like likely he will not, be impeached by the Senate. So what really are the repercussions of that?
Yeah. Well, first of all, it probably is that he may not get convicted by the Senate, but also we do have a decent amount. So we have, like, I think 7 or 8 senators, Republican senators, that are willing to at least willing to hear out the impeachment managers and vote to impeach him or convict him. And Mitch McConnell is not saying that he's whipping votes in favor of Trump, which is a huge deal, because the last time he was like really making sure that everyone stayed in line, and everyone except for Mitt Romney voted to acquit Trump. So the fact that he's even, let it be leaked to the press that he's not doing that is a huge deal and a huge break from Trump. Obviously, I don't want to give him any credit because he's not doing anything about it. And it's pretty spineless, but still, just to reiterate that it's not out of the realm of possibilities in the same way that it was last time. It is like way more likely for us to actually be successful in convicting and disqualifying Donald Trump. So there are other less severe avenues, like I mentioned, to holding the president accountable that Republican members of Congress have been throwing around. So the first one is censuring Trump, which is just like saying you're bad. I don't know. It seems very minimalistic to me for what the crime was. They could also, like I mentioned, disqualify him under the 14th Amendment. But again, impeachment and conviction are the most powerful tools Congress has available to them, and they should use them right now. Because if we don't use it now, what are they for?
And if he's still, if he let's say he does get impeached fully, does he still have the ability to do all those pardons that he's planning?
He has to, well, he won't get impeached fully before he leaves office, so he won't be able to pardon anyone after he leaves office. But from now until Wednesday, yeah, he can pardon whoever he wants, including the rioters, including his kids, or possibly himself. So we just don't know.
Right. And I also, just out of curiosity, what do you think is kind of driving this change of tune from Mitch McConnell? Because everyone's very, very surprised. There are people that have not changed their tune: Ted Cruz, Josh Hawley, Matt Gaetz. There are people who are still, acting like business as usual. And when I say business as usual, I mean of the last 4 years. So this is something that I never thought I would see. If you think about our first episode, we were talking about how we know that Mitch McConnell was the one really holding up this stimulus check. And now, and again, like you said, I don't want to give him any credit at all, but I do find it interesting that he's changing this tune. And I was wondering, what do you think that's because of?
For him, it's always about political power. Now Trump is starting to be dead weight, right? Like, he's going to be a wild card that's not even in power anymore. So he doesn't have the same control over the military and just being able to do whatever he wants, and doesn't have executive protections. So now it's going to be harder for Mitch McConnell to rein in Republicans. And also, you're seeing this so clearly, his followers are turning against the Republican Party, right? They were at the Capitol screaming, hang Mike Pence. They weren't just saying, hang Nancy Pelosi or get AOC. It was
Right.
hang Mike Pence. So once you see that Trump and his followers are ready to turn on the Republican Party, Mitch McConnell has to really look out for himself and not Trump anymore. And by not convening the Senate early and not whipping votes to do that, and not also impeaching Trump, what he's essentially doing is making sure that later on he could say that he wasn't disloyal to Trump, so he could still pander to Trump's base, while also pandering to the base of Republicans that realize how absurd this is.
So Mitch McConnell is doing as Mitch McConnell does, which is covering Mitch McConnell's ass.
Exactly that. And I hope this is a lesson that right now, and all throughout the pandemic, Mitch McConnell, who only 1.2 million people voted for, is holding up stimulus packages and so many decisions that impact all 300 million Americans. And we need to do something about that.
Yeah. Well, always a pleasure to have you on, Ashni. Thank you so much for being here and helping me dissect these comments today. It was awesome. And, hopefully we'll have you on a third time.
Definitely. I would love to be back. Thank you, Shivani.
No problem. I'm just going to put your Instagram up on here for anyone that wants to give Ashni a follow. She's always posting great content. And we will see you soon, hopefully.
Bye.
Bye. Don't forget, everyone, that you can always send in any comments that you want us to discuss on the show by DMing me on any platform. The comment section will be live every Saturday right here on HAPS TV. Usually it's 10 a.m., but we've been changing it up lately. So just keep your eyes out for an upcoming broadcast, an upcoming broadcast post on HAPS, because I'll post the time on there. And thank you so much for joining us from Mississauga, Ontario. I'm Shivani Prasad. Have a great day, everyone.